Hey, Scott.
Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
The 2021 strain of the brain. This is us, right?
I know it is. It's working out.
It's really hard to believe another year has passed, and it's really hard to believe it's been 2 years since we were actually out and about with this thing at the Harley-Davidson Museum.
I know.
When you think about when we started this way back when, and it's correct, maybe you remember, maybe you don't. I want to say 2007, 2008. Does that sound right?
2006.
2006 was our first event on the lakefront, very cold. And to say it's grown a little since then would be an understatement.
Yeah, but every year has been a better year than the last, and we raised a lot of money. So.
Yeah, and a lot of times with charitable events, it's the toughest part is getting them off the ground, and a lot of times they'll spread word of mouth. And the Strain for the Brain has certainly done that over the years. You think about where we started with 2006, we had some miserable weather, which didn't help. I think we were in May when we first started. Does that sound right?
We were in May.
Okay, and then we moved to summer. We moved to Miller Park, and eventually to the Harley-Davidson Museum. And the last time we had this event live, 2019, we had a huge crowd at the Harley Museum, and you could just tell, and you had to be overjoyed in how this thing had grown since.
It was overjoyed. There were a lot of people that were frustrated because they had trouble, for example, parking. But
oh, that's a good point.
It was a great event, and we raised a lot of money on that one especially, and we got clearance now when we finally resumed in person to use the street there on the street that goes towards Harley. I forget what that Canal
Street.
Yes, and we got clearance for that, so we can use the whole road. So that'll be better, and so we're working towards improving it.
All right, so what you're telling me is it's definitely a go for 2022, and we're going to be at the Harley-Davidson Museum.
Yes. Definitely a goal for 2022.
Oh, that's perfect. How have you been in the past year? I haven't seen much of you. Nobody has seen much of anybody.
I know, nobody's seen anybody. I had a stroke. I went through rehab. It was related to the radiation damage to my vessels 16 years ago, which I wouldn't have been alive to experience. So I'm grateful to have had that stroke.
Well, we're happy you're still here, obviously, and we're gonna get more into your story later in the program. We have a lot of really talented individuals lined up this morning. And remember, the most important thing is if you're watching on YouTube, and tell your friends, because this broadcast will be up for a while. Strainforthebrain.org. You can click the link there and donate. And I'm sure you've seen the donations rise as well over the last few years, Mike.
Yep, they've always risen. Except when we do this in virtual, the numbers have gone down from like 1,000 to like 200, 250. But that's still a lot of people. So we're going to get back to in person, and we'll be back up in the thousands.
Obviously, other than the pure obvious response, what do you miss most about having that event live?
A better sense of community. Nice.
Yeah.
This is a nice community online. But there's a much better sense of community when you can touch somebody else and see other people, and just have a better sense of community.
I love watching the same families and the same groups that show up every year, and they may have lost a loved one, or they may have a loved one battling this right now, but they show up and how their groups have grown, gotten their own custom shirts. I mean, the Strain for the Brain t-shirt is great every year, but they've gotten their own custom shirts that represents whoever they're fighting for when they come out with their groups. Some people dress up in costumes. Some people really take this serious with the run. Yeah. Others just out there to have a good time with the walk.
Yeah, I think everybody's taking it serious. How they approach that is everyone's different. Some people are, I don't know, more casual about it, and some people are really serious about it.
So like you said, it's really the important thing is the sense of community that we have every year. And I've talked to people that have come out since year one. Others have just joined in the past year or so. I've had listeners to our morning show, and I'm on the country radio station, Milwaukee FM 106. as well as a couple others in our building. But people that have just heard me talking about the event and have said, you know what, I myself have been a factor. I know somebody that has, and I just want to get involved. And that's the incredible thing about this. As I said right at the beginning, sometimes in the early stages, you hope you can get from year to year, and you see how some of these things grow. And it's kind of exciting what you've been able to do, Mike.
It's not just me. Yeah, it's everybody. So, but yeah.
So we are now in, gosh, I haven't done the math. What is this year? 2006. So we're, what, 16, 17, something like that. I think back to the early years, and I think I touched on this last year as well. We're out in miserable cold. I know one year it was like raining sideways at Veterans Park, and as beautiful as it is down there, that's something that gets to you right down to your bones. It chills you to your bones. There was another year that I had to lead warm up, which was a real treat. Somebody hadn't shown up from the the workout gym. And so you had me lead warm-ups, Mike, and that was not pleasant for me or the people watching. I don't know if you got involved, but if we do that again, you're going to have to join me on stage.
Okay.
That was a little rough. Although I will say this, I have been getting in shape since we did this last year.
Well, you look younger than you looked each year.
Yeah,
You look
thanks.
younger every year.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it must be my somewhat thinning, still great head of hair. COVID, we hear this story repeated all the time where people put on weight. And my wife and I, sitting at home a lot, loved each other's company. But if you're not as active, and for me, it was playing softball and playing a lot more golf, going to concerts, walking around Summerfest grounds, walking at the Strain for the Brain. When you're not doing those things, yeah, the weight starts to pile on a little bit. And that actually happened to me. I put on about, 10, 15 pounds. Since then, I've been able to lose about 25. It's because my wife gets me going every day. We go out and we walk the neighborhood, and
Nice.
I've started a walking track in my basement. So in the
Wow.
wintertime, but it's amazing what you can do for your body if you're in decent shape. I'm not going to say I'm in great shape, but I'm in good enough shape to walk for Strain for the Brain after we get done today. And that's what I'm going to do. She's going to get me right out the door.
Right. That's nice. That's incredible. That's everyone should do that.
The last time I think I weighed in the 170s, I think I was in either high school or it was when I was playing college baseball. When you think, you really don't even have to try to stay in shape. And you were an athlete in college. So, well, although you wrestled, so you probably did go through some vigorous workouts when you were in college. My workouts was going out of the local pub, and doing the 12-ounce girls.
Oh, dude, that's impressive that you did all that.
Yeah, it's really been life. And I've seen, my sleep patterns have changed. I'm getting more sleep right now. My heart rate has gone down. My cholesterol has gone down just by walking, because I've tried to do stuff like this in the past and it just hasn't worked when you try to do a really like a crazy diet change. So I said, I'm not going to do a diet plan. I got a Fitbit, and that seemed to do the trick. Now I'm obsessed with how many steps I get a day. I have to get my 10,000 steps a day, and most times it's 15,000. But yeah. So anyway, enough about me. I feel good anyway. But throughout the morning, we're going to be talking to, as I mentioned, a lot of talented doctors. Bonnie Blair is going to join us again, Mike. One of the most decorated Olympic athletes in U.S. history.
She won the most She won the most medals in the Olympics.
Yeah, in Winter Olympics. Although she corrected me last year that Anton Apollo Ono beat her in certain categories, but he does a lot more relays. There's a lot more events now than when she was in the Olympics in the late 80s and into the 90s. But she was incredible. If you remember watching the Winter Olympics, so we're excited to have Bonnie. How did that connection happen? I know she has a history in her family. Her brother had a brain tumor, but how did you get a hold of her? How did you know this about Bonnie Blair?
I knew this about Bonnie Blair. My friend Steve Strova, she was friends with her. I don't know if that's pertinent, but I knew I had contacted her before I even told him that I knew her. And so I contacted her directly. And she was extremely willing to do this every year. So she's
She's been a great friend of Strain for the Brain and strainforthebrain.org if you're donating this morning, and a great great storyteller. When she gets on that stage every year at a live event, you can just tell every eye and every ear is locked on her, because she's so, as good as she was in the Olympic theater speed skating, she's a great speaker as well.
She's an amazing speaker. She's amazing at whatever she does.
We're a few minutes away from our first speaker, Dr. Wade Mueller, but I want to ask you about your hat. The Blatz hat is really cool, Mike. I need to know where I can score one of those. That's pretty nice.
You know what I did? I got this at the Brady Street days 4 years ago. I don't know.
Okay. Throwback to the Milwaukee beer scene. I love it. One of the original beer barons. That's something other that I enjoy doing besides walking right now is drinking some of our Milwaukee's finest, the craft beers. So looking forward to that. How have you been, other than the fact of what you went through last July? Have you been able to get out and enjoy life a little more since COVID has started lifting? Things are getting exciting.
Yeah, things are getting better. And my sister and brother-in-law are here. And
because you are not from Milwaukee originally.
I'm not from Milwaukee, but I've lived in Milwaukee more than any other place. So more than years.
Same here. And being a radio guy, we move around a lot. So
I bet you do.
I was in 5 cities in 8 years, and I've been here ever since.
Wow. I didn't know that.
But yeah, and I remember coming to Milwaukee and didn't know anything about the city, didn't know anything about its people. I remember saying, do I really want to go to Milwaukee? Well, 27 years later, here I am. Both of my children were born and raised here and grown and had graduated and gone. So yeah, I think, and that's what we love about this event. We love the people in Milwaukee who are ready when asked to help us out. And you're going to see strainforthebrain.org on your screen throughout this morning as we get going. So please be generous and help us out. As Mike mentioned, we have challenges here since we're virtual. It presents a bigger challenge than actually getting out live, but we're going to be live again next year, right, Mike?
That's right. We are 100% going to be live next year.
Are you going to run, you think? Or?
I don't know if I'll be back to that. I'll at least walk. I can walk 5K easily.
I was always impressed, and I could use the excuse, I'm working with the microphone, really working hard, but you and Bonnie actually were both involved actively with the event, running or walking in the past several years. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Let's get going with our presentation. And right off the bat, and I think he kicked us off last year and does such an incredible job. Although the difference this year is I think he might be home, and last year he was actually working, is Dr. Wade Mueller, the neurosurgeon from Medical College of Wisconsin and Freighter. Dr. Wade, you're still working this morning, but you're working on something different. What are you doing?
I'm out at our farm. My wife and I have a little farm we use as a weekend place in Dodge County. And I've been watering potatoes because it's dry out here.
I don't think I've talked to anyone that actually that plants potatoes in Wisconsin. You always hear the usuals with the beans and the tomatoes. I look around my neighborhood here and I see a lot of people, starting to plant. But potatoes is interesting. Are they a challenge?
Well, when you're not a professional, everything's a challenge. But I like them.
That's outstanding. Last year, you were actually giving us a mini tour. You were actually working on this Sunday morning. And it was really fascinating to get a behind the scenes look at what you do. But you also have a personal connection to Mike Malloy, don't you?
He's one of my heroes. And I like how he's taken a challenge in his life and turned it into a really good thing for a huge population. So I like to hang around people like Mike to gain the spirit of how to do things right.
How long have you two known each other, Mike?
Since my first surgery. So he's been there every moment of the way. He's talked me through it. He's told me what to expect and what not to expect, and he's been very supportive. There's nothing that Wade Mueller can't do that's not good.
Except some years grow potatoes.
Except what?
Years grow potatoes.
Oh, I think you're going to be fine doing that too. I don't know how you react when when you're dealing with somebody in a life-threatening situation, doctor, where you have to try to put them at ease, but at the same time, be sincere and be honest with them. How do you handle something like that?
I think the key is just keeping it real. So we can't predict the future for an individual. So people need to know that we have statistics for large groups of people, but we have nothing for an individual in terms of truly telling how their life is going to go. So once that point's made, then it's like the rest of life where you just live it out and see where it goes. So I try and emphasize that internally and externally, what we know and what we don't know. And personally, I find it lovely that we can't predict our own futures. As my work has led me to be in that situation with people a lot, and so I've had to think about it. And I'm darn glad I don't know what's up for me or for anybody else.
Strainforthebrain.org started in 2006. Mike obviously went through what he went through before that, and I imagine you've seen some cutting edge technology improve quite a lot since that time.
Yeah, I do nothing similar to when I trained. Every single operation I do, everything I do is vastly different and keeps changing, keeps evolving. And to tell the truth, that's what keeps me in it. Is I find that part thrilling. Excuse me. We started with imaging, with different MRI techniques to be able to better select what we can do and what we can't do. And that led to intraoperative MRI scanning. We do a lot of awake operations, and that's been very much modified over the years based on what we've learned with identifying areas that people need to keep. So as work goes, it's just a wonderful place to work, the brain, because we know a lot and because we know nothing. There's, every day truly can be a new adventure.
And it is certainly a group effort, isn't it, when it comes to Medical College of Constant Freighter, and hospitals around the country. It's a team, man. You guys rely on each other so much.
Yeah, I get a lot of play for being this wonderful person that does operations, but I can't do anything without at least 20 people. So, and every one of them is just as important to the effort. Because the brain is so complicated, because we're working in and amongst or very near areas that people need to keep who they are. It takes a lot of work to be able to do that. And excuse me, neuropsychologists, neuroradiologists, pathologists, the neurologists especially. We have a very close-knit team. We share recipes, so it's not all work. But it's really key in terms of progressing what we can do for folks. The other thing is the research arm is a very important part of what we do, and that's funded by things like Strain for the Brain. I'm going to bring out an old rant of mine and try and keep it from being a rant, but one of the problems with research is to get money, you have to have results. So to get a regular research fund, you have to have results, which means people who are doing stuff that they've always been doing get funded. And magic in research is what's called unrestricted funds, like we get from Strain for the Brain, where we can try things and see how it works. And if we get results, then we can get conventional funding. But it gives us the seed money to be innovative and allows us to do things we've done over the years in terms of improving our care and improving our contact with people.
This is it can be so catastrophic to the people involved, their families, but can you talk at all about what kind of success we've seen? I don't know if if you want to go like a bar chart, pie chart type of thing, but the survival rate from when you started doing what you're doing to now.
I'm going to swing the conversation a little bit different way to our ability to do big interventions without hurting people. When I started, with the best of intentions, the field was such that we would try to do big operations, but many times people would come out of it with some functions that were less good than others, and that's very rare now. And that's the biggest change I've seen. On the treatment end, the radiation people and the neuro-oncology people that you're going to talk to later can speak to advances in their fields. But again, this has all been done as a group effort. when we try a new chemotherapy drug, we're all involved. When we try a new radiation technique, we're all involved. And similarly, when we try new surgical techniques, we're all involved. So it allows me to have the fun of different fields that I'm not expert in, and share the successes and share the problems, which makes the whole process quite rich. I want to elaborate a little bit on what you and Mike were alluding to earlier about one of the things that I see with Strain for the Brain when we have in-person events that's so big is the sense of community. I come from a family that has a relatively rare neurologic disease, and I learned from that experience that it's very possible to feel quite lonely when you have something like that going on. Rare things don't happen often, and you don't know anybody who's had it. And the thing that support groups and support events like Strain for the Brain do is let people know they're not alone. And it lets them know very much they're not alone. And they're surrounded by people that are fighting, they're surrounded by people that are winning, and they're surrounded by people that are cheering them on. And I think that's just a marvelous, marvelous side effect of trying to raise funds.
Boy, that's a great point. Just feeling like you're going through this alone, and then all of a sudden you show up over the years at Veterans Park, Miller Park, and the Harley Museum, and you see hundreds or thousands of people that are going maybe not through the exact same thing, but it's something very similar. That's a great point.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of the event, and it's why I like to be involved. Is you see people's faces grow with recognition of cool people that are having the same problem they are. And it's not just that you want to meet people that are having a problem you have, but you want to see them succeed. You want to see them look like they're having a good life. And that's our goal for our patients, is to not just be able to do cool operations, or not just be able to extend length of life, but to really try and push the quality in the face of a shocking bunch of news.
Do you envision where things will be, 5, 10? Because if you just look at the world in general, as far as technology goes, I don't think 10 years ago we would, be imagining where we are today, where these things have gone, for example, iPhone. But in the medical field, do you ever, dream and think about what this will be like in 10 years, 20 years from now?
Yeah, I dream a bunch. Recent advances in the last 10 to 20 years, a lot of them have been microprocessing and computing. So being able to do sort of math problems very quickly has all kinds of benefits, it turns out. And being able to do them with smaller, taking up smaller space, obviously has a whole lot of benefits to it too. On the biotechnology side, there's been a lot of work on harnessing our natural immune response to fight tumors, and that, I think, will continue to be very fruitful. And I always wonder if we're one drug away from this whole problem being gone, and we aren't there yet. But I can envision a day where, through thousands of people working around the world, somebody gets lucky, and all of a sudden we get a major breakthrough, because that's how science works.
Right.
It's not, the story of Albert Einstein sitting by himself and coming up with all the answers to physics, I think is probably kind of naive. But that's a very sort of natural narrative in our society. We like hero worship. We like to have the one guy who, Michael Jordan, makes a shot at the end of the game. But the reality of science is that it is thousands of labs attacking little different angles on the same problem, and each one making a bit of a breakthrough, and everybody else grabbing that breakthrough and working on that, and everybody else grabbing the next breakthrough and working on that, which is where research money becomes so important. I like to see a day where these tumors are gone. You get a diagnosis, you get a treatment, and you keep going. We're hedging into that world now, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. We can't tell who's who when we start, but we're aiming in that direction.
Well, it's great to get to spend a few minutes with you. You're always certainly an inspiration. I know you especially for Dr. Mike Malloy and everybody that's met you over the past couple of years, Doctor. Now, if we can only do something with those potatoes. Oh, you say it's early in the season, right? What is the potato growing season? Are you about done? Is this an August crop or September?
Well, to harvest potatoes, I need to be off work, and the ground needs to be dry enough. So it's anywhere from early August to November. And it's just something we do for fun. I have a bunch of friends come out, we dig them up, people take them home. and we eat them.
All right. I'm sure that's
all
part of those
week long.
recipes you were talking about earlier. Dr. Miller, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
You bet. It's a pleasure. And Mike, always thank you for being this inspiring person you are with this event. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Mike. So you're talking, what was it, 20 years ago for you? And we'll get more into your conversation here coming up. But the first time you met Dr. Miller?
Yeah, I met him when I had my brain tumor. So
It's been a while. Strainforthebrain.org is the website. That's where you can click the link and you can donate with us today. And remember, tell all your friends we're on YouTube too, and that will go on and live for a long time. It is kind of weird when you see yourself on video from, we do a lot of video, even though we're on radio, and it's weird to see myself with my mullet from 1997 that somebody's converted to, streaming. And I can't imagine. Now I know what it would be like to be on one of those old sitcoms, Mike, where you see yourself when you're 25 years old. All right, we're going to move on right now because our next guest is with us, and also a very busy man. Although, if you see where he is right now, it doesn't look too busy. It looks like he's just kind of chilling. And that's Dr. Fernando Santos Pinheiro, who's joining us from, is this your orchid greenhouse, Fernando? Where are you right now?
Yeah, I am in my place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful what you got going behind you there.
Very colorful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you're a new guest for our Strain for the Brain. Right off the top, tell us, why you wanted to get involved and what is it exactly you do there at Medical College?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the medical college now for going to 4 years, and it flew by. This is my third Strain for the Brain. The first one was live, second one was last year, and this is my third one. It's great to be involved with this project. We're all really thankful for the support that Strain for the Brain gives to us as caregivers and to our patients. It's very important for them. It's very important to us. There's a lot to be good with.
And as we were just talking about with Dr. Miller, I imagine you've seen some cutting edge technology improve even over the past 3 years since you've been involved with Strain for the Brain.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing more and more new novel therapies coming on, immunotherapy, CAR T-cell therapy, and it's so wonderful to see that it's such a small period of time.
It's
there has been so much growth. So not only with medical therapy, but also with devices, precaution. So it's really a good time to be in the research field.
And just talking about the emotional side of this, a lot of times we think of our doctors and what they do, in black and white on paper, but you all go through what these families and what these patients are going through on a different level.
We do, and I get really inspired by each one of these stories. Every patient, every family that I meet, and that I tend to say that they adopt me and I adopt them. We become friends and we become part of each other. It's a really powerful feeling to be caring for these patients and to be part of their life when they need help.
Is there any particular case in mind that when you think back, and not necessarily naming names or anything, but maybe that you were inspired by, maybe it was earlier in your medical professional career or more recently, maybe a certain patient that stands out or a certain family that stands out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the patient that made me choose neuro-oncology. So I was still a medical student. I went to Memorial Sloan Kettering to be an observer, the neuro-oncology service. And I believe it was one of the first patients that I had the pleasure to be alone in the room with. And she was being admitted because she was transitioning to hospital. She was a very young woman.
that one.
found
I can't-
out to have brain cancer
It's not
right
that.
after she got pregnant, and she she opted not to get any type of treatment. So besides surgery, so surgery was the only treatment that she had, and it was really powerful. The feeling, the motherhood. It was the first child. It was going to be the first child. So she eventually gave birth to a healthy baby girl. And I met her, I believe, 3 or 4 months after she had given birth. And she was very thankful for all the care of people. And she was a very thankful woman. So she was very thankful to God for her path and the way that he gave her the opportunity to give birth to a child and to be able to, contribute to the course of the human.
Sure. Yeah, that is inspirational. How have you guys been able to handle this whole craziness we've lived through in the past year? I know this type of thing, the Zoom or Microsoft Teams has been important to you. Have you been able to handle it? And is that still going to play a part moving forward, even after the pandemic is over?
It's a great question. I think that this virtual environment, virtual visits are here to stay. It is a great tool for patients, especially the ones who live far away, who have problems with mobility, transportation. I believe in some ways helps them to continue with their care and support that we give to them. Sometimes we need to see them in person and look their hands to them. But at times, it would be more beneficial for them to stay at home and heal and stay surrounded by their family members instead of driving 3 or 4 hours to Braden just to meet more 10 or 15 minutes. So I believe that virtual visits are here to stay, and they benefit both the patients as well as them.
I know, Doctor, was Jen last year was giving you grief, showing pictures of you doing certain Zoom meetings where you're all dressed up top, but you had like your running shorts on the bottom. That was we thank you for the entertainment last year. That was pretty funny. But
I'm
that's
doing this right now, actually.
yeah. I love that background. I mean, that's not a fake Zoom background like a lot of us have. This is actually at your place. That's very impressive. Same question I gave to Dr. Miller before. What do you foresee for the future? I mean, we're making progress, especially with great organizations like Strain for the Brain. He mentioned seed money before. Every bit helps, and that turns into technology, and it turns into positive things moving forward.
Yeah. So we work for the Hope Clinic, right? And hope is the combination of courage and resilience. And with hope, we generate progress and peace. And hope is what keeps us moving forward, right? So I foresee for the future that we'll find a cure for cancer. I don't know if it's going to be next year or 10 years, but there has been so much progress. And the research that we see being published in our annual conference is so high level that I have no doubt that one day you're going to be able to see the patient, have surgery, they have radiation, you're going to give chemotherapy for them, and they're going to be like melanoma, like some kind of lymphomas. So it's around the corner.
Are we going to see you out live at the event next year?
Absolutely.
Are you going to run? I mean, you look like you could go run a marathon right now. Yeah, good.
I will.
That's outstanding. We won't keep you any longer. Enjoy. Although you said you're on call today, right?
I am on call today, yes.
But I'm glad you didn't get interrupted during our conversation. So, certainly everything is informative that you've had to say. So we appreciate the 10 minutes that we had. And hopefully you're not on, or hopefully you're not called while you're on call, and you can enjoy your flowers or what else you have going today. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that is Dr. Fernando Santos Pinheiro, who's doing incredible work at Medical College and Freighter. Mike, you get to see this stuff firsthand in a lot of cases, especially since you've had a hands-on with Strain for the Brain over the years, and it's really impressive. It's really a credit to you how you've seen this thing grow. And I know you're going to say, "Well, it's not me. There's other people," but you've kind of been the spearhead of this thing. Oh, I can't hear you. Are you muted, Mike? You might be muted. Are you? Am I the only one that can't hear Mike?
Yeah, we can't hear him.
Oh, Mike, look at that microphone and see if you've got the mute button on.
I think I'm unmuted now.
There you go. I got you. Perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry. So I don't know if you could hear what I was saying, but this is really a credit to
I hear
you.
what you were saying. What I was saying was really, I have put a lot of effort into it, but I'm not the only person. So you know that. You, for example, Bonnie Blair, all of you, everyone here, Wade Mueller, Peter.
LaViolet.
Yeah, I always screw it up. I always say La Violet. Michael Straza. Fernando. So anyway, yeah, it's a good thing, and I think it's a good thing. So I think it's worth repeating every year.
Let's talk about the money and where it goes. I know a lot of times people, when it comes to charitable organizations, they want to know exactly, where their money's going to every year. They donate or they get their team together. Can you fill us in, shed a little light on that right now? Yeah,
well, it goes to fund research, and it goes to fund fellowships at the medical college. But like the example of the research includes like Peter LaViolette. And did I say that right, Peter?
LaViolet.
LaViolet, sorry. I'm sorry. I see his name in writing, and it's so fun to pronounce. But I do it wrong a lot, almost every time. But research like his is really crucial in our. I mean, what's next? And so I'll let him tell you about it. But I'm not versed in what he does, but I know he works with brain. He has a brain bank, and he works with cadavers and cadaver brains, and he correlates them with imaging. It's just amazing what he does, and it's kind of scary what he does.
It's very impressive what he does.
Yeah.
But something you mentioned last year, Mike, stuck out to me was the fact, a lot of times you'll see some organizations where just a few pennies on the dollar is going to research. And something that struck with me that you mentioned last year that is a lot of the pennies on the dollars from Strain for the Brain go to research.
All of the money, I think, goes for research. I mean, anything that's not taken off the top. So we have to pay our expenses, and then
like my salary, of course, that comes off the top.
Yeah, you're so nice that you donate it back.
Now, listen, as long as you keep inviting me, I'll keep coming back. Let's move on to. Do you want one more shot at Peter's name, Mike, or do you want me to introduce him?
I'll let you introduce him.
Peter LaViolet, like he said, it's just like the flower. Peter LaViolet, who is, as Mike mentioned, brain tumor research and does really incredible work. Peter, good morning. How are you? Welcome. And I think like last year, you were working as well, and you're back in the office today.
Yeah, I'm in the lab. I'm not working technically, but I'm here because my kids are young and noisy, and figured I'd get away for the Sunday morning.
And you have your whiteboard back there. It looks like a
Yep.
coach at work in a locker room.
Well, I've got my Strain for the Brain shirt on and my lab coat in the background. But yeah, this is my office. This is where we brainstorm ideas, and as Wade and Mike have said, the funds from Strain for the Brain are amazing for us because it allows us to try new ideas and you know, some of the projects that have been funded in the past have resulted in some very high impact manuscripts. For example, we used funding from this fundraiser to collect tissue samples that we sent to a large international collaboration. These are samples from patients that had a surgery and then treatment and then had a repeated surgery. And the goal of that study was to map out what changes during the course of treatment in the tumor's genetics. And that paper is actually published in Nature last year, and we were part of it because of this fundraiser. And you can look it up. We have Strain for the Brain as a funding source on that manuscript in Nature. And I don't think I'll ever get another Nature paper, but we'll see. But direct benefit of this fundraiser is that study. As Wade also mentioned, you know, we have other funding that's from the National Cancer Institute. In order to apply and be successful at getting grants from the NCI, you really need pilot data, and you need to be well versed. And this is exactly what this funding source does for us. And we are indebted to Mike and to the organizers every year. And you know, I look forward to in person next year. I look forward to losing to one of the North Shore firefighters in full gear.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, and usually my lab shows up and we set up a table. We have our 3D printers going. We usually hand out these, oops, sorry, it's a biohazard bag, but these are just, these are the brain keychains that we 3D print and hand out every year. Looking forward to that next year again. And yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to talk about our science. You know, COVID has been a challenge. We, at the beginning of March last year, had to go entirely remote, and it gave our researchers and my team an opportunity to learn new techniques in machine learning and computer coding that have allowed us to look at our data in new ways. You know, our team is now back in person and has expanded. We have 2 new graduate students that have joined my lab in the past year. We have a new clinical coordinator, and we're also hiring a new postdoc hopefully soon. So we've you know, taken advantage of the remote work and have generated some really cool new science that will be coming out shortly in a manuscript form. But as Wade mentioned, our lab is focused on imaging research. Imaging is very important in brain cancer. At the beginning of treatment, it's important for figuring out that there's a presence of a tumor. And then before surgery, we do imaging that provides Wade and our other neurosurgeons the opportunity to see what parts of the brain they should avoid during treatment that would potentially cause side effects after treatment or after surgery. Then, as Wade mentioned, we're pioneering this intraoperative MRI, which is amazing. Patients during surgery are scanned. We're one of the only institutions that does that and does that often. And Wade's been a pioneer in that, and same with our radiology team. And then after treatment, as you'll hear from, or after surgery, sorry, as you'll hear from Michael Straza later on, imaging is very important for treating with radiation and for then monitoring that treatment response afterwards. So our team is focused on using tissue samples from patients, both from surgery and both at autopsy, and then looking back at the images and trying to use that information to make our technology better and improve things. So, yeah.
You mentioned something before that really struck with me that said, you know, you could have $1 million idea, but that doesn't necessarily, you're going to be able to get the funds it's not like these funds are set aside just for you and what you do at medical college. I mean, it has to be achieved, and oftentimes that's not easy to do. So I guess that's where Strain from the Brain comes in a little bit to help, supplement that.
Exactly. Yep. And we talk about this in academia a lot. The pay lines. The pay line is how good a grant has to be in order to get funded. And at the NCI, the National Cancer Institute, the pay lines are very, very low. It's a 10th to 12th percentile. That means that only 1 in 10 grants gets funded, and those have to be the best grants. And in order to be the best, you have to have data to present your preliminary results that suggest to the reviewers that you'll be able to do the project and it'll be a success. And that's where, funds from Strain for the Brain are very, very critical for us. We get the idea, we then can explore that idea further with pilot funds that are provided by this fundraiser. So
how'd you like to be on that board trying to decide who gets the grant and who doesn't?
Well, I mean, I am a grant reviewer, so
So you don't have to imagine.
I've served on many panels, and you see it. You see who has the backing of fundraisers like this and philanthropy. You see it in the grants, and it can be pointed out by reviewers. That you have the backing of local philanthropy. I think it's very important.
So take us behind the curtain behind you there, because I have no idea what I'm looking at on your whiteboard. But in layman's terms, tell us exactly what that is.
Well, I mentioned it before. We're working on a new grant and a new idea, and the idea is that during treatment, when you treat tumors with radiation and chemotherapies, they can actually change how they look on the images. And if we train our machine learning algorithms or our software to recognize patterns in that imaging, those patterns will change throughout the course of treatment. So that's something that we need to take into account. And we're currently working on a study that will sort of map those changes over time. And to do that, we have to know what treatments each patient undergo, and we have to sort of start to model that. And it becomes a very complicated math problem, but that's what we're working on. So that's what the scribbles are behind me, is sort of brainstorming new ideas for that grant proposal.
That's very humbling, by the way. I love doing what I do, but wow, when you just listening to you try to explain this, it's very humbling to somebody like me that's not in the medical field. We appreciate your time. As always, you've always been a great supporter of Strain for the Brain. Next year we're live, right? We're out live.
Yeah, I can't wait. Like I said, we always show up in force. My grad students come along, and we love talking with people. We love interacting with our patients, because a lot of times we're stuck in the lab. So it's good to actually interact with families and patients and those affected by this horrible disease. So
I want my 3D brain, by the way, next year.
I have one right here. It's not your brain, but I have one.
It's probably better than my brain. Thank you, Peter LaViolet. We got it right this year.
Yeah.
We did, right? Mike,
Yep.
you want to try it one more time before?
Violet.
Yeah, you're close enough. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thank you to everybody for supporting this amazing fundraiser. Really, really appreciate it.
All right, cool. Mike, this is normally the time where you and I are getting ready to, to go do our thing. We got to start stretching. I usually, Saturday morning is normally my day to go to the grocery store, and that's where I'll get my, my carbs for Strain for the Brain. And I was out of town this weekend, so I'm in trouble. I just checked the pantry, and I don't think beef ravioli or jelly, that's about all I could find in there. So I think I don't know if that would be a good combination, nor do I think that would be good as we get out and ready to run. Mike, what do you think?
You're going to burn everything anyway.
That's right. That's right. Including my clothes if I were to go out after eating beef ravioli and and crepe jelly. Um,
Uh,
what is it? We're looking at. I want to make sure we're on time here. Oh yeah, so we're just about on time. I want to remind everybody, and I'm having difficulties with my phone here. I love checking YouTube because we love your comments. Last year we had so many good ones, and we love interacting with you. But you know, being Mr. Technology, I'm having difficulty right now bringing up the live feed on my phone. So, but we'd love for you to check in with us if you're watching on YouTube this morning. Maybe you're out on your walk or run right now. We want to hear from you. On YouTube, or you can you're there already, obviously, or you can click that link at strainforthebrain.org. If you get done watching the broadcast today, that's going to be up there for a while, and you can donate to us as well. And as you've heard everybody say, we're going to be back live next year. Hopefully, I don't see this going into another wave. Do you, Mike? I'm sorry I even said that.
We're going to 100% be in person next year.
We've been talking throughout the morning. It's been great, but it's also been a little strange going places for the first time without a mask on and seeing other faces that you could only see from here up, and now you get to see the whole face.
Yeah, you were supposed to interpret their whole face by looking at their eyes.
I just go around apologizing to everyone. I'm sorry. I know this is, yeah, you're disappointed, but this is what I look like. What am I going to tell you? All right, enough of that. Let's get on to our next guest. Dr. Michael Straza joins us, you know, another key cog in the machine as we do this thing every year, and we try to bring people to you that really know a lot about what they're doing, and he's no exception. Michael, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I love your posters back, by the way. My wife and I are big national park fans. We take a trip to Colorado and Utah every year, and you've got some impressive ones back there.
Yeah, no, we're a big fan of the parks. We have a nice, and then right behind my head, black and white pictures we got at those same locations. So it's a big part of our summer adventures every year is to hit up at least one of the parks.
Yeah, and they're crazy right now. I bet since everything is opening back up, I bet the national parks are just a zoo right now.
Yeah, we were just at the Grand Canyon 2 weeks ago, actually, and it wasn't too bad. I don't think anyone had gotten the memo yet.
Well, a lot of room to roam out there, right?
A little bit. Plenty hot, though. Not unlike yesterday.
Yeah, this is Arizona-like weather. You're right. Fill us in a little bit on what you do and why you want to be involved with what we're doing for Strain for the Brain.
So I am a radiation oncologist affiliated in the Medical College of Wisconsin. I have been here since 2013, first as a trainee, and then I've been on the faculty since 2017. And part of the neuro-oncology group I joined in the summer of 2018. So my first Strain for the Brain was in 2019. Also the last time we all were together. A little different feel, that big crowd out at Harley and the walk along the Hank Aaron was something I'm looking forward to getting back to next year.
Yeah, that was impressive because we had moved to the Harley Davidson Museum from Miller Park, which obviously is just a massive, giant place. American Family Field. Sorry, it was Miller Park the last time we were there, but it really showed you what strength in numbers is all about when we were at the Harley Museum to see all those people out there, all having a good time for a great cause.
And that sense of community is a big part of, we love to see our patients and their families draw strength from each other. And I think Dr. Mueller says it best is that what all of you and all of all the families deal with can make you feel alone and isolated, and at least one day a year looking around and getting to see that neither of those things is a big reason to make sure we keep the event going, and we do that with our participation. And all of the neuro-oncology team members love coming out for that event.
Take us a little deeper into the neuro-oncology department, I say this every year. We are so lucky here in the city of Milwaukee, in the state of Wisconsin, to have what we have with this wonderful facility.
Well, it's been an amazing period of growth since I've been at the institution. Growth in faculty, growth in research facilities, growth in the technology in my department. We're one of the first departments in the world, let alone country, to have the MR guided MR Linac, which we had installed a few years ago. We've been treating patients on now for a couple of years. And quite a few of our brain tumor patients have actually participated in the research on that machine, which is instead of us looking at a CT every day like we do, like many of the patients out there and their families know, where they ask us what's happening every day, every week, what's changing, what's getting better. We never could really tell them before. And we're hoping that this machine over time is going to teach us in real time what's going on, or what's getting better, what's not getting better, and helping us make different decisions or work to change the timeline of things. And that's just not something that was, technically even imaginable when I started my training. And now it's not just imagined, it's a reality and becoming part of a regular part of what we do. One of I'm standing in for Dr. Joe Bovey today, one of my mentors and one of the professors in the department, who's been part of the CNS group for a long time and has been participating in Strain for the Brain for a long time. One of the things I want to do on his behalf, the whole neuro-oncology group's behalf, is thank you all for the money you raise, because as Dr. Violet said, it makes a huge difference for what we're able to do. And one of the things I get to tell you as of Friday is that there are now 2 clinical trials being entirely funded by the money we've received from this group. Dr. Bovey's trial looking at preoperative radiosurgery for brain metastases has been open now for a few months and has enrolled its first 4 patients. And now we're, as of Friday, have a glioblastoma trial looking at a different form of radiation as part of that initial treatment after surgery. So those trials are now open, and that's thanks entirely to the funding we were able to receive from this group.
Oh, that's incredible to hear. Dr. Bovey last year, I think, joined us, and he had his son with him, didn't he? And his son had, he was like his right-hand man with the sound effect machine. So he was trying to make his dad sound more amusing than he actually was, but he
his Abbott to his Costello.
That's it. Exactly right. Same question, and kind of just what you just mentioned there with this technology that couldn't even be imagined when you started at medical college. It's kind of exciting to think the medical field, like the regular world, it's kind of exciting to think of where it's going, isn't it?
It is why I do what I do. I love taking care of patients, but early in my career, it occurred to me that I can only take care of a few or a dozen people a day, and by working with these amazing group of researchers, we can hopefully move the needle for way more people than I could hope to see or take care of myself. And that's why we all take the extra time to participate in the research, to work to design it and implement it, to get better answers for people we'll never meet.
I don't remember any.
That's one of the things that we get to do with the support we get from this group.
In closing, if you have a message you want to send out to people that are with us every year in person, and of course, this year, last year, it's been virtual, but we all hope to be live again next year. If you had a message for people to maybe have them check on strainforthebrain.org and drop us some dollars, which you just mentioned, it's so exciting to hear where this stuff is actually going, their money is going. If you had a message for people, what would you say?
That we are humbled by your hope, your determination to do something for others, almost always stemming out of your own experience, and that we don't take those donations and that investment of your time and energy into this lightly. And we all work very hard to make sure we're worthwhile the support we get, both in what we achieve and what we how we implement that for those that are yet to come.
All right, we'll see you live in person next year. Sound good?
Yes, you will.
What's your next park visit, by the way, before we let you
Oh,
go?
Yosemite.
Awesome place.
That's the next one on the list.
Lived about 3 hours from there, and we would go up about once a year. And boy, I don't know if there's a more beautiful place on earth than Yosemite National Park. Enjoy your time. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Straza. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Mike Malloy, you're going to be next in the spotlight. I know you're excited about that. But before we do that, we should tip a hat, Mike, to sponsors, which, I mean, this thing be tough to make it possible every year without our great sponsors that jump in and help us. And you probably want to give them a little plug right now.
Yeah, NovaCure is the biggest sponsor we have. They pay the most money. They pay a lot, and they're the manufacturers of that Optune device, which people put on their heads and wear like a baseball hat sometimes. And other sponsors include Spruce Accounting, who gives us our accounting for free. GI Associates gives us some money. They give us a hefty amount too. And then FM 106, you give us your money back. So we list you guys as a sponsor.
It's always fun to see, sponsors setting up at the grounds every year, as we talk about having that sense of community, and, people get involved, and there's freebies and there's tchotchkes, and that's what this event is all about. So that's why, as the world opens back up, we're so excited to get back out there again next year, Mike.
That's true.
And, and hopefully you're going to be ready to run. I'll tell you what, if you were, well, I would say I would run, but, somebody's got to hold down the ship while the runners come back, right? I mean, I've got to do my part as they come down the chute.
Yes.
And by the way, if you're watching virtually and you've never been to our event, Strain for the Brain, it's a very professional. We haven't even touched on the fact that how good some of these runners are. I mean, they're flying through this course, and and they come from all walks of life, all ages, but they're all really talented.
What impresses me is how my sister Molly, she's a runner. She happens to be here with me, and she was a coach for track and all that, and she ran nationally in college and in high school, and she got beat by some of the firefighters in gear.
Oh, North Shore Fire Department.
Yes.
They come with, 80 pounds, 90 pounds of gear on?
They're carrying all kinds of weight on their bodies, and she got beat by some of them. And
I apologize to those guys if they're watching, because there's a story behind that. They were affected personally by that. And I believe it was another firefighter or a firefighter's family. And because of that, they show up with their gear on every year to struggle through that run.
Some of them show up with their full gear. So, and if they don't, they're still like the rest of us.
By the way, I don't know if there's a more Irish name than what you just said your sister's name is. Molly Malloy.
Yes, that's her name. Yes.
So let's get into your story a little bit. Those of you that haven't heard it, we've heard it, and it's inspiring every time, Mike. But I know you mentioned when you were given this news so many years ago, that things weren't looking bright because we didn't have the technology that we have today. So I'm guessing there was probably even a lesser chance of survival when you found out this horrible news that was given to you.
Well, I was in Arizona at a conference at the time, and I think it was 2005, and then I had a seizure at 3 a.m. I had to get out of bed, and I just didn't feel well for the preceding 2 or 3 days. But that was it.
And was this the first time you had suffered a seizure?
Yeah. The only symptom I was having was mild headaches. I didn't have headaches before. I thought maybe it was a hangover. I didn't know.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know because I don't have hangovers. And so, because I don't drink that much, despite what my head says. They called 911. I was taken to the emergency room. I had a CT scan. They saw a big honking mass in there. And then they were connected to Barrows Neurologic Institute. I was at St. Joe's in Phoenix. I came to find out. And then, so I went to Barrows Neurologic Institute. That's why I talked to Dr. that's where I talked to Dr. Mueller, but I didn't have surgery by him at the time because I was in Arizona. So I had surgery there. It was kind of an emergency surgery to decompress it, to prevent it from herniating through my skull. And I did that surgery. They said they said they thought it was probably a glioblastoma, and it turned out to be a glioblastoma, according to what they knew at that time. So I went on and I recovered, got my staples removed eventually, and had to decide whether to have a second surgery because they said that maybe this tumor could be reduced in size. And the only person that my neuro-oncologist in Phoenix knew was 3 people in the country. And one of the ones is a person who trained with Wade Mueller, incidentally, Dr. Peter Berger. So I went to UCSF a month later and had that operated on again. They were both 9-hour surgeries about. And my family all came out. And yep. And then that was in San Francisco. The previous one was in Phoenix. And then I just had to hold on. I didn't have any choice, but I stayed positive, and I kept a positive attitude because what was I going to do? I mean, there's nothing else to do. So, and I rode my bike like a crazy man, and I was able to. And during the chemo and radiation, which followed that, I took 6 weeks of chemo with mid-dose chemo with radiation, and then after that did a year of cycling Timodar.
Did being in the medical field yourself, being a doctor, did that help? Do you think at all as far as the mental and emotional part?
Well, yeah, oh, definitely. Being a doctor too, I didn't know much neurology. I knew what I knew from training in neurology, but I didn't know the details of brain tumors as much. But I was told that if you get a GBM or a glioblastoma multiform, that you are as good as dead. And so I was told, my sister was told, because she pushed and pushed and pushed, and they finally told her that that I would live no more than 18 months. So
I don't know how, Mike Malloy, I don't know how you're able to let that news sink in and just not go crazy.
I didn't have any choice. So I decided to stay positive and ride the bike, and had my chemo coordinated by Dr. Mark Schultz. And
you know, I think there's a lot to be said about what you just said. You had no choice. You stayed positive. You rode your bike. You went on with your life. And I'm a firm believer in even that. I mean, having a great positive outlook is going to go a long ways towards your survival.
And it does. Studies have shown that it does. It shows that the macrophages and the cells in your body derive benefit from that. They do fight harder. So with a positive attitude, it does help. So getting down on yourself would hurt your health.
And we're very thankful that you're still with us. You're still going strong. All these years later, since 2006, so it's been happy 15th anniversary. Wow.
Yeah.
And initially, you said with that type of cancer, you could be as good as gone. And now here we are, 15 years later, and you're still going strong.
Yeah, 16 years.
16.
The event, we went to Chicago for the first event, to Path to Progress or whatever they have there. And so we saw everybody walking there by the lakefront. So we said, well, let's do this in Milwaukee. So we did it.
So talk about, and I know we mentioned him a lot during this event, but Dr. Wade Mueller, and what he's meant to not only your survival, but what he's meant to you as a person.
Well, he's such an inspiration. He's an amazing guy. He's very humble, as you saw. he always gives credit to other people, and he deserves a lot of the credit. I mean, he knows what he does, and he does it well. And so he's just an inspiration to me.
He's a
And,
pretty good potato farmer too. I guess we'll give him credit where credit is due.
yeah.
Yeah. Strainforthebrain.org. And what Dr. Wade has said, and Peter and Michael, and and everybody else that we've heard from today. And Mike, I'm sure you would echo that. Is this money's all going to the same place. You hear a lot of different voices here, but it's a group effort, it's a team effort, and that kind of epitomizes what Strain for the Brain is too.
Right. I agree with that 100%. And everybody who gives us support is giving all of us support. So
your story is it's never ending. I mean, you're still battling this thing, and you mentioned you suffered a stroke last July, and did you say that actually goes back to the very beginning too, you think?
it may have been related to the radiation I had. That's what Jen Connolly says. But you know what? I wouldn't have had the stroke because I wouldn't have been alive. So
there you go with that positive outlook again.
no, it's like it's the truth. I mean,
I know.
God, I would, I felt happy to have this. That's a wrong way to say it. I don't feel happy that I had the stroke, but it's just that I'm still alive. I feel really good about it. So
have you been able to get?
I not run if I get the thing, but I can walk fine and I don't fall down anymore. So.
Oh, that's great. And have you worked since? Or,
yeah, I'm back to work now.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be coming to see you anytime soon, but I'm glad to hear that you're back to work. We joke a lot. You're a busy guy though, right? I mean, you were hitting it hard.
We do a lot of stuff, and we like to take vacations and stuff, but not this year.
Yeah. But isn't it thrilling though that we're starting to do things again? I'm going to go to my first Brewers game in a couple weeks, and I can't tell you how happy that is.
Yeah. Well, my brother-in-law, who's sitting here, he said it was very inconvenient, my brain tumor. The Doon Athletic Conference tournament, and they had all kinds of stuff. They had birthdays.
It was kind of inconsiderate of you when you think of it.
He's mad at me.
You're always thinking about
I'm always thinking about myself, he said.
Yeah, that's great. Strainforthebrain.org is where you can click and donate this morning if you're inspired by Mike's story, and we are every year. We also mentioned last year, Mike, I firmly believe that the fact that you were an athletic kid and even into the college years, I think that probably had a lot to do with it as well, right? That you were able to survive.
I think so. I don't know. But
you were a wrestler, right?
I was a wrestler in college, yeah.
Yeah. Were you like 149-0? Can you share us a little bit about your accolades back then?
I don't remember what my record was, but it was I was an academic All-American.
Hey, all right.
I was a team captain my senior year with two other guys, including my brother-in-law. And then
that's some dedication, by the way, wrestlers. And you people aren't, you're a little not right sometimes too. When I went to college, I had wrestlers on my floor, and you learned when to give them space, especially if they were not allowed to eat before weigh-in.
Oh, that's horrible. Walking by a drinking fountain is even scary. Like, it's hard because that's whatever you drink, that's weight.
Yeah, we only have a minute here, but explain that. So on weigh-in day, if you're an ounce or two over, that's trouble.
You don't get a wrestle.
So you had to, deprive yourself of important things like food and drink.
Yes. Then as my brother-in-law is saying, because he was a wrestler also, you got to set goals, achieve those goals. That's how you're successful.
Right.
I coached a team to second and state in Indiana.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a kid who grew up in Iowa, so I know how big wrestling is.
Oh, you know how wrestling is in state.
They take it very seriously. And a friend of mine from Minnesota said they draw 13,000 for the state hockey tournament up there. I said they do that for wrestling in Iowa. It's a packed arena every night. I've never seen anything like it. And So I really, appreciate what the sport is. I love watching it, and the dedication is really what stands out. So you all should be commended for that. Do we have, as I look at my watch, and we're almost done here, gang. And again, tell your friends if you're watching the live stream, we're on YouTube, but strainforthebrain.org, you'll see it on the screen, and that's where you can donate. And even after we're done today, tell your friends and about this incredible event. And Mike has mentioned we're going to be live again in 2022. We're going to be out. And well, I'm 99.9% sure we are. I said last year, nothing's going to keep us from being out live this year. And here we are. But next year, Mike, I really feel
they gave us all these rules and we couldn't follow them. So that's
that's it. Okay. We'll hope for the best anyway. I think it's going to happen, and hopefully it's back at the Harley Museum. It's time for Bonnie Blair's segment. Now, Bonnie was busy today, so I'm not sure if she's back with us yet now. There she is. Oh, she is. Yay. Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Yeah, I've been listening to all this and, hearing about, Mike's positive attitude. That was a big part of my brother's battle, was having that positive attitude. So Mike, kudos to you for what you've done for this whole walk, number one, and how you've stayed connected to it. And then your success of just being you and keep battling. Kudos to you, and kudos to that positive attitude.
Thanks.
Bonnie, your brother's story is kind of similar to Mike as far as the length of the battle, right? I mean, and as you mentioned, I'm sure a positive attitude was the reason he was with us so long.
Yeah, well, and then it's funny too how Mike said, he was awoken at like 3 a.m. That was the same thing as my brother. He had a seizure in the middle of the night. I don't know if it was 3 a.m, but it was probably, somewhere in that ballpark. And, one of the kind of, you try to find humorous things and stuff that happens. And, one of his things when he kind of came to, they were trying to test him and ask him, different things. And one of them was, well, who's the president? And he said Grover Cleveland. And, that wasn't the president at that time. But one of the funny things is he did a project on Grover Cleveland when he was in high school. So somehow when he came out of it, he thought he was like in his high school years or whatever. So, you try to take some things like that and find you got to try to find humor in things, and that's what we did. And like Mike, he just had this really strong positive attitude. My brother's motto was, before my brain tumor, I could do 10,000 things, and now that I have my brain tumor, I could do 9,000. So his glass was always way more half full than half empty. And that was, that just draws on that strength of, trying to be the best that you can be every single day. And, I take that with me today. No matter what the deal is, you can always do more than what you think.
Take us back in time. What part of your life was his diagnosis? Were you younger, older?
So yeah, I'm younger than my brother. Rob was his name. And actually, because we're at home, I thought, and because we're in a Zoom or whatever, I could share one of my favorite pictures of him, which was taken, and I'm sorry for the sun. I don't know how to get
we can see it.
But anyway, close enough. That was actually taken here in Milwaukee when it was the outdoor rink. When we skated outside, it was freezing. And after one of my races, I went over and he gave me a big hug. But so he was 9 years older than I was. He was diagnosed in 1987. And, I think they thought too, he wouldn't be able to have a very long life either. And he wound up battling for over 21 years.
Wow.
So it was huge. And maybe to add a little bit onto that, after my 94 games, I was Sports Illustrated Sportswoman of the Year. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but because of that, they did an extensive article on my career and family and everything else. And it brought about how Rob had a brain tumor, et cetera, et cetera. And one of my fan mail letters I got was, oh, they always thought, my daughter's brain tumor couldn't be, looked into further and done any surgery and et cetera, and gave us the name of this doctor out in California, in San Francisco, Dr. Mitchell Berger. So my brother then reached out, and sure enough, he's like, yep, I want to see you. Wound up taking out half of his tumor. And I'm sure, that extended his life tremendously. And then if I can just add a titch more onto that story, I was out visiting one of my good buddies, Brian Boitano, if people are familiar with figure skating, in the San Francisco area. And I was staying at his house, and he has a rooftop, out in San Francisco, a lot of people, instead of having a yard, you have a rooftop or whatever where you grill and this and that and the other thing. So he was showing me around, and next door, this gentleman was having a party on his his rooftop. And he's like, oh, hey, I just want to introduce you to my good buddy, Bonnie Blair. And the guy on the rooftop is like, what? He said, you're in my office and I look at you every day. It was Dr. Mitchell Berger.
Oh my goodness.
And through my time with Brian, that day, we had even talked about his next door neighbor. But he was referring to him as Mitch this, Mitch that, Mitch. I knew him as Mitchell. And so I didn't put two and two together. So here, after quite a few years, we were able to be connected again. And, it's a small world and you never know. And, to be able to give him a hug and say, thanks for giving my brother a longer life, that was pretty special.
Yeah, that was meant to be. That's crazy. I mean, that's fate right there. I mean,
dude,
what are the odds being in a city that size, and here you are right next to each other on a rooftop. I also think it's very cool that you it's kind of a fraternity with Olympic athletes, that you still hang out together and see each other. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like a university, I guess. People graduated from the University of Wisconsin. We graduated from the Olympics together or whatever. So, it's once you're an Olympian, you're always an Olympian, just like if you're a graduate of, Madison, you're always one. So that's kind of how we look at it.
We only have a few minutes left, and I don't want to get topic too much, but the Olympics are scheduled for next month in July. I think we're cautiously optimistic. Like everything else, it's just, it's COVID time, so our fingers are crossed.
Yeah, and I hope they're able to pull it off. You look at, what they did with hockey and the bubble really a year ago, and how they were able to manage that. Obviously, this is on a much larger scale, but I hope they're able to manage it. As another coincidence, they took the head of the Tokyo Games out because he made a comment, we should get rid of some of these women in these committees. They talk too much. Okay, I'm going to raise my hand. I probably do. And they actually filled it with a competitor of mine. We skated in 4 Olympic Games together, Seiko Hashimoto, and then she also was in 3 Olympic Games for cycling. So now she's heading up the Tokyo Games, and I really hope it comes off. It's unfortunate that families can't go there to watch. But these athletes have trained hard. You got to give them that opportunity to get out on that starting line or platform or whatever it is, that course that they run, and let them, the wrestling, have them out there on their, whatever it is. And we hope that they're able to all come together, make it work, and compete. So it's already been postponed 1 year. Let's make sure they can make it happen.
All right, Bonnie, we got to let you go. You're always an inspiration. We can't thank you enough for the time that you give us every year for Strain for the Brain. Next year, we're going to do it live, okay?
Yes, of course. Yes. And those those firefighters, I asked them when I passed them the last time, it's 60 extra pounds I think they're carrying.
Wow.
60. So I'm actually kind of glad it isn't today because it's record heat, and you know, we'd be having to pick them up, I think, off the ground. So
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Which is something they go through every day, by the way, when they're fighting fires.
Yeah.
North Shore Fire Department. That is crazy. Bonnie, thank you. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, Mike. And you know, for those that are going to get out and exercise today, whatever that is, for being part of this, just be careful because it is hot out there. And if you want to delay it a day, that's okay too.
Appreciate it. Good to see you, Bonnie.
All right. Thanks.
All right, Mike Malloy. You know, I am not a very good time manager. It's past our time, so we're going to have to go here, Mike. Thanks for inviting me back. I'm going to hold you to it. Next year, we're going to do this thing live, okay? Mike might already be gone. There he is. Mike, any closing words before we go? All right, we're just going to wrap it then. Thank you, everybody. Strainforthebrain.org. Donate, donate, donate. We'll see you next year. Bye-bye.